Welcome back, friends. So today we'll be starting with a new system, that is central nervous system. Now in this system I'll be focusing on the important topics which may be asked in examination, right? So in that, the first topic is our glial cells, right? So glial cells seems to be not important for examination, but if they ask you, you should not be blank without writing. So you should have some information about glial cells, right? So these glial cells are not going to conduct action potential, or they're not going to form any kind of synapse with the other cells. Then what is the function? See, they are going to form a mechanical matrix where all the neurons will be embedded, right? So these are going to form the mechanical matrix where the neurons are embedded. Next, they are going to play a metabolic as well as nutritive roles for the neurons. So it is going to support neurons in such a way in metabolic as well as in nutritive, right? And also they are going to regulate blood flow through the brain. See, they're not going to conduct action potential, they're not going to form any kind of synapse. What other help does neurons needed, they're going to give these glial cells, right? And they may act as a sink or source of neurons. See, ions. So it has got a lot of ions where whenever needed it can give. Okay, it is going to insulate axons and synapses electrically to isolate them from each other. This will be learning with the types of glial cells, right? They are going to phagocytose the neural debris. Very important. They are going to act as a phagocytes. Very important. Fine. Now let us move on with the types of glial cells. Very important. First important type is our astrocyte. Look at this. The shape of astrocyte is star shaped. Okay, they are star shaped, and apart from that they also have got some kind of functions. Now what are the functions of astrocyte? Yes, the functions of astrocytes remain same as we have discussed in glial cells, that they form the mechanical matrix, right? So they are going to form a mechanical matrix, and as well as they are very important where they form electrically insulating synapses. Very important. Fine. So these are the functions of astrocytes, right? Next important thing what we're going to discuss is the oligodendrocyte. Fine. So next type is oligodendrocyte. Fine. Now in this oligodendrocyte, what really happens? They are found very close to the myelinated axons. Where are the myelinated axons? In the brain as well as spinal cord, right? These myelinated axons, we have got oligodendrocyte in the brain as well as in spinal cord. Now what is the function of oligodendrocyte? Listen carefully. The functions are very important, that they see this oligodendrocyte, they wrap so much of axons. That they are going to be in close association with the myelin sheath. Very important, right? So these processes of the oligodendrocyte, they are going to wrap so much times to form the myelin sheath. So it has the capability to form myelin sheath. This is very important. Fine. Now apart from that, the action, so because of this myelination, listen carefully, the action potential is conducted in which fashion? Saltatory fashion. Very important. Saltatory fashion. This is how the action potential is conducted, right? Apart from that, we also have some other types called as microglia. See, micro, the word micro means very small. So these are the smallest, okay, these are the smallest cells which are present in the central nervous system. And apart from that, they also help. These are the scavenger cells. These are the scavenger cells in the brain. Very important, right? These are the scavenger cells in the brain. And apart from that, if the nervous tissue is damaged or it is infected, these cells are going to enlarge. Which one? These cells are going to enlarge and they become a kind of mononuclear phagocytes, where they can eat or they can eliminate the debris or the microorganisms, right? So this is microglia. They are very small, but they enlarge when the nervous tissue is damaged, so that they become a mononuclear phagocytes and they can eliminate the debris. Fine. Next we have something called as ependymal cells. What is this ependymal cells? Listen carefully. These are going to line the surface of the brain ventricles. Very important. Okay, and not only the surface of brain ventricles, as well as the central canal of spinal cord. So these are the coverings of what they're going to cover. They're going to line the brain ventricle as well as the central canal of the spinal cord. Understand? Fine. So these are the types of glial cells. Next we will be moving on with neuron. Okay, so neuron is something very important. 5 mark question. Fine, let me use different color. Okay, so what you know about neuron? It is a nerve cell and it is the functional unit of the nervous system, right? So if you look at the types, before types, what are the parts? Okay, parts, if you see, we have got what? We have got soma, we also have got dendrites, as you can see over here, and also we got axons, right? You can see over here. So these are the axons. Okay, now let us move on with the types. See, in types, if you see, based on the arrangement of axon, it is classified into a lot of types. Let us understand by diagrams. Okay, so the arrangement of axon is divided into a lot of types. There is, first one is unipolar neuron. See, in types, if you know the examples, it is enough. Okay, so unipolar neuron, if you see, it has got what? It has got single process, right? It has got a single process and they are usually found in the invertebrate. That's it. It is usually found in invertebrate. If you want to know, it is also found in vertebrate, that too in ANS. That's it. Okay, that too in ANS. Fine. Now let us see about the pseudo unipolar neuron. What is this pseudo unipolar neuron? This is going to split into two processes, that is about the central as well as peripheral. So the processes are going to split into two things. One is central as well as peripheral processes. So these are the pseudo unipolar neurons. And apart from that, if you look at the examples of pseudopolar unipolarns, it is mainly the dorsal root ganglion. That's it. Next is about bipolar neuron. So as the name suggests, it has got two processes. Fine. And what is the example? See, bipolar. In that bi you take it, and it is present in the cell and mainly in the retina. That is bipolar cell of retina. That's it. Bipolar cell of retina. So this is about the bipolar neuron. Next we have multipolar neuron. Okay, so in the multipolar neurons we have got multiple neurons. So there are multiple neurons and the process arise from the soma. These process they arise from the soma, and the best example I can give you is that spinal motor neuron. Fine. So if you remember the examples, well and good. Okay, fine. Now apart from these types, this is about arrangement of axon. Next, if you see, that is arrangement of length of the axon. Now I am going to divide it by the length of the axon, that we have two types. One is on Golgi type 1 and Golgi type 2. Fine. So this Golgi type 1, they have a very short axons. That's it. Very short axons. And what example I can give you is about SIN. That is cortical, okay, inhibitory, I for inhibitory neurons. So we saw about the Golgi type 1 and type 2, and Golgi, they are a short axons, and what example can I give you is cortical inhibitory neurons. Fine. Okay, now we have other type, that is Golgi type 2. Now in this Golgi type 2, they are long axons, right? And the most important thing is we have that cortical motor neurons, where the neurons which give rise to the corticospinal tract. Corticospinal tract. Fine. So we have got the cortical motor neurons which give rise to corticospinal tract. We'll be learning about those things later on. Fine. So this is about the length of axon. Okay. Next, the other type is that according to their functions. So according to their functions, we have two types. Fine. That is sensory neuron as well as motor neuron. You know about these things, but what you should know is that these neurons are going to carry impulses from the receptors to central nervous system. They are going to carry all those the impulses from receptors to CNS. That's it. And because of this reason, they are called afferent neurons. That's it. Sensory. Okay. Next, motor. Motor means what? These are the neurons which carry impulses from CNS, just the opposite, from CNS, right, to the organs. These neurons are going to carry impulses from the CNS to the organs. That's it. Fine. And because of this reason, they are called as efferent neurons. That's it. And do we have any other types? Yes. Based on the dendritic pattern, we have two types. I mean cells. What cells? We have got pyramidal cells as well as stellate cells. Fine. And the pyramidal cells, if you know the examples, is well and good. Mainly the hippocampal pyramidal neurons. This is the example, typical example, hippocampal pyramidal neurons. We can find the pyramidal cells. Apart from that, we have stellate cells, where the typical example I can give you is about cortical stellate cells. That's it. If you know the examples, well and good. Okay, fine. Next question, we will go on to learn about synaptic transmission. How the synapses transmit impulses, we are going to see now. This is very important question. Okay, let me use different color. Fine. So if you draw the flow chart and present it will be well and good. Okay, so let us discuss about that. Synaptic transmission is just a process of what? Of the information from the presynaptic neuron, it passes on to the postsynaptic neurons. How? Through a synapse. That's it. Through the synapse, the information is delivered, we know, and the information is passed from where? From the presynaptic neuron to postsynaptic neuron. That's it. Okay. Now this synaptic transmission, what really happens? We know that the action potential, okay, is at the presynaptic nerve terminal. That's it. Presynaptic nerve terminal. Fine. From the presynaptic, it has to move on with postsynaptic. That's it. Then the information is delivered. Now, how that takes place, we are going to discuss now. So, action potential is where now it arrives at the presynaptic nerve terminal, and what really happens is that there will be opening of, yes, can you guess what channel? Yes, calcium channel. So if there is opening of calcium channel, then there will be entry of calcium to the presynaptic terminal. That's it. Then there will be entry of calcium through where? Presynaptic terminal. Okay. So entry, the calcium came into the presynaptic terminal. Now what really happens? There will be release of neurotransmitter. Okay, see, calcium came into the presynaptic nerve terminal, so it causes release of neurotransmitter. Okay, by whom? Who is going to release this neurotransmitter? By the calcium mediated exocytosis. That's it. So because of this calcium entry, there will be release of neurotransmitter. Now what really happens? There will be binding. After releasing, there will be binding. Binding of what? Binding of this transmitter with the receptors which is present in the postsynaptic membrane. Fine. Now there will be binding of the transmitter to whom? To the receptors where you can find in the postsynaptic membrane. That's it. Now what really happens? There will be opening of the ion channels because it has got bind. So ion channels open. Okay. Then there will be movement of ions from to the postsynaptic membrane. That's it. There will be movement of ions. So since ion channel open, there will be movement of ions through the postsynaptic membrane. Fine. Now what really happens? There will be, so since there is movement of ion, so ion has come to the postsynaptic membrane. Now what will really happen to postsynaptic membrane? There will be a change. What change is there? So there will be a change in the membrane potential. That's it. Membrane potential. So this membrane potential is changed in where? Postsynaptic membrane. Okay, postsynaptic membrane. Now when there is change, yes, that's it. There will be generation of synaptic potential. We got it. There will be generation of synaptic potential. Finished. Over. We got the synaptic potential. Let's revise. We have the action potential in the presynaptic nerve potential. Okay, let me just use any other colors like black. So when there is action potential coming to presynaptic nerve terminal, there will be opening of calcium channel, and this calcium will move into the presynaptic nerve terminal, and there will be release of neurotransmitter. Why release of neurotransmitter? Who is doing that? By calcium mediated exocytosis. And because of this, our neurotransmitter is going to bind with the receptor present in the postsynaptic membrane, and when it binds, there will be ion channels will open. So ion channels are open, then these ions will move into the postsynaptic membrane. That's it. Then if the ions move to the postsynaptic membrane, what will happen to the postsynaptic membrane? There will be a change. What change? There will be change in the membrane potential. Finished? If there is change in the membrane potential, yes, there will be generation of synaptic potential. That's it. Fine. So this is about the synaptic transmission. Now let's move on with next question. Yes, properties of synapses. This is very important question, 5-mark question in your examinations, right? So properties of synapses. I will be discussing only the important ones with the diagrams, right? So in properties of synapses, first important thing is about law of forward conduction. Law of forward conduction. See, always impulse will travel in only one direction. What direction is that? Yes, from presynaptic it will move to postsynaptic. That's it. Right? See, impulses always travel in one direction, that too from presynaptic to postsynaptic neurons. Right? Okay. Now this process is called as the law of forward conduction. Now when you look at electrical synapses, if electrical synapses is known, then it is bidirectional. That's it. It is bidirectional. Only in electrical impulses it is bidirectional. Okay, fine. The next important thing you should be knowing is synaptic delay. What really happens in synaptic delay? Yes, there is some delay, right? Where is the delay? That we must know. Okay, there is a time, the time which is required for the impulse which is to be transmitted throughout the synapse. Right? The time required for the impulse to be transmitted throughout the synapse, it is delayed. It is delayed. That we call this as synaptic delay. How much is the delay? It is 0.5 ms. That's it. 0.5 ms. And you must know why it occurs. Okay. The question is why? Why this 0.5 ms? Listen carefully. See, we know that the synaptic delay occurs due to the time is spent on calcium, the entry of calcium ions to presynaptic knob. That's it. See, the time is delayed because of the entry of calcium ions to the presynaptic knob. That's it. This is called as synaptic delay. Okay. So the next important thing is about law of divergence and convergence. Okay. See, divergence means one to many. What one to many? Projections. So it is about one to many projections. That's it. So from one presynaptic neuron, it passes the information to a more amount of postsynaptic neurons. One presynaptic neuron passes information to many postsynaptic neurons. Understand? This is about divergence. Okay. Convergence means what? Just opposite. Okay. That is many to one. Many to one. Okay. So here many presynaptic neurons are projecting to only single postsynaptic neurons. So this is the very physiological, this divergence and convergence, a very physiological basis for summation as well as facilitation. That's it. Very important, one more question. It is the physiological basis for the summation as well as facilitation, right? Next we'll move on with another important thing, law, that is postsynaptic potential. Postsynaptic potential. What really happens? See, during a synaptic transmission, if the potential of the postsynaptic membrane, is carried through depolarization, yes, then we call it as excitatory postsynaptic potential. Depolarization occurred, then there is excitation, postsynaptic potential, yes. And this postsynaptic potential is divided into two, that is excitatory as well as inhibitory. If there is depolarization, this concept is excitatory. Now listen carefully. If the potential through the postsynaptic membrane is towards hyperpolarization, then we call it as inhibitory postsynaptic potential. That's it. Hyperpolarization means what? Inhibitory. Depolarization means excitatory. That's it. Understand? Fine. Next very important thing is about synaptic inhibition. See, in synaptic inhibition also we have two types. What are those? That is direct inhibition. Other one is what? Yes, you tell me. Indirect. That's it. Let us discuss this direct as well as indirect with the help of diagram. Okay? Yes. This one. Listen carefully. Here in this diagram, A is about direct. In this diagram B, it is indirect. How to find out? Listen carefully. Indirect inhibition, what really happens? The inhibitory presynaptic neuron will directly inhibit the postsynaptic neuron. See, presynaptic neurons are here. They are going to inhibit the postsynaptic neurons. Direct inhibition. Now, what is indirect? Someone will inhibit. That's it. Who is this someone? We find out. See, now in indirect, what really happens? The presynaptic neuron is not inhibitory, but here another inhibitory neuron is going to inhibit the postsynaptic neuron. That's it. Understand? What did I say? Direct means presynaptic neurons are going to inhibit the postsynaptic neurons. Indirect means presynaptic will not inhibit, but someone who inhibitory neurons are going to inhibit the postsynaptic neurons. Understood? Okay. This is about synaptic inhibition. Next is what? Next very important concept is that the sixth one, feedback and feed forward inhibition. Feedback and feed forward inhibition. Now let us see with the help of the example. Which example? Yes, this one. Listen carefully. This is talking about the negative feedback inhibition by someone called as Renshaw cell. Can you see here? Renshaw cell. This is going to inhibit negative. So negative feedback inhibition. See, the collaterals from the spinal motor neurons end of the inhibitory neuron, they are going to inhibit the discharge of the same motor neuron. Okay, so this is about the feedback inhibition, right? So here in feedback inhibition, there is a negative feedback inhibition where the collateral from the spinal cord neuron ends of the inhibitory neuron, that is called as Renshaw cell. Okay, that is going to inhibit whom a discharge of the same motor neuron. Okay, so feedback, we have the Renshaw cell, which are the collaterals of the negative feedback inhibition, and they are going to inhibit the discharge from the same motor neuron. Another collateral from the Renshaw cell, they are going to inhibit a neighboring motor neuron. See, same Renshaw cell only. This Renshaw cell is going to inhibit whom? Neighboring motor neuron, and that we call it as lateral inhibition. That's it. Understood? Okay. Now let us move on with feed forward inhibition. Okay. So the example of feed forward inhibition is, better example is Purkinje. Yes, Purkinje cell. Okay. Now here we have someone called as Mosey fiber also. This Mosey fiber inputs, they are going to stimulate granule cells, and because of these granule cells, they are going to activate your Purkinje cells. See, somewhat Purkinje cells has to be stimulated. How? Ulta way. How Mosey fiber is there? Mosey fiber is going to stimulate the granule cell, and granule cell is going to stimulate the Purkinje cells, and because of this, the output of the Purkinje cells is inhibitory, as neurotransmitter are secreted is GABA. So GABA is the neurotransmitter secreted. That's it. This is important 1 mark question. Okay, which neurotransmitter is secreted by Purkinje fibers? GABA, right? Okay. Now because of this stimulation of this Mosey fiber pathway, it activates the inhibitory output of the Purkinje fibers, and that is called as feed forward inhibition. This concept, if you know, it's enough. Good. Okay, fine. Next important diagram is that occlusion. This is the occlusion thing. Let me use another color. Occlusion. What is this occlusion? Listen carefully. If this A is a presynaptic neuron which fires 5 postsynaptic neurons that discharge, okay, and we have another B that also gives 5 postsynaptic neurons discharge. Now very important, 2 of the presynaptic neurons, they are going to share a same discharge zone. 5 is there, and that 5 from A, 5 from B. Okay, in that two of the presynaptic neurons is going to give out same discharge zone, and that function we are going to call it as occlusion. So 8 of them, so there will be activation of 8 postsynaptic neurons. Instead of 10, there will be 8 postsynaptic neurons which will be activated. That is occlusion. 2 of the presynaptic neurons will be occluded. Okay, 2 of the presynaptic neurons will be occluded, and only 8 of the postsynaptic neurons will be activated. That's it. Did you understand? Okay. Now we will be discussing about receptors. Very important question. Okay. So receptors, first how you must be writing is that first you write about definition, next you write about the classification in simple terms, next you write about the properties, that's it, and what are the cells are there in the receptors, that's it. Okay. Now what do you mean by receptors? These are nothing but transducers. These are transducers which are going to carry or convert. Okay, convert is better word. The transducers where it converts various forms of energy in the environment into action potential. That's it. This is the definition of receptors. They are transducers which converts various forms of energy from the environment into action potential. That's it. Okay. Now let us see the classification of the receptors. First classification is that classification. Okay. Here, first important thing is mechanoreceptors. Mechanoreceptors. What is mechanoreceptors? Mechano, you are doing some work. So there will be a mechanical stretch. There will be a mechanical stretch of what? Of the receptor. Receptor may be skin. So let me give an example of skin. So mechanical stretch of the skin, they are called as touch receptor. That's it. Touch receptor. So mechanoreceptors. Next important thing is nociceptors. What is nociceptors? Nociception. Very important. Nociception. That is about pain transmission, pain perception. That's it. So noci, pain. So pain transmission is going to help us in pain transmission as well as recognition. So these are for pain receptors, nociceptors. Okay. Next very important, thermoreceptors. You tell me. Thermoreceptors means what? What receptors they are? Yes, temperature receptors. Okay. Next is about proprioceptors. What are those? It tells us where the joint is. Joint position receptors. Joint position receptors. Next very important thing, exteroreceptors. So these are the classification. Exteroreceptors. What are those? These are nothing but external stimuli receptors. That's it. External stimuli receptors. For example, what I can give you? External stimuli. So it will be mechanoreceptors. Mechanoreceptors. That's it. Next, very important, enteroceptors. Enteroceptors means what? There will be internal changes, right? So internal changes receptors, or can be sensors, and that we call it as osmoreceptors. That's it. Interoceptors, where internal changes sensors. They are going to sense the internal changes in our body, and we call it as osmoreceptors. Okay. Next, we have last one, that is teleceptors. What is teleceptors? Any idea? Telephone, right? So even distant stimuli sensors. That's it. Distant stimuli sensors, mainly for photoreceptors. Okay, so we have this much classification of the receptors. So definition over, classification over. Next we will be seeing about very important properties. What are the properties of receptors? Okay, fine. Now first important properties is modality. Okay, first important is modality. What is this modality? See, for example, I am going to give us pain. Okay, so pain is what receptor? Tell me. Pain is what receptor? It starts from the N. That is nociceptors. Don't forget. So pain is nociceptors, right? So because of this, our sensory our sensory receptors are will be found out. Our sensory receptors will be found out mainly the pain, that is nociceptors pain. So these will be found out by sensory receptors modality. Understand? Next very important property is location. See, many of the sensory receptors, they are found out in the skin. That's it. Okay, many of the sensory receptors are found in the skin. Now listen carefully. There is some technical terms that we call it as receptor field. Okay, so receptor field means the surrounding area. Suppose if this particular is receptor, center is receptor, and here we have receptor field. So surrounding area to find out the stimulus. That's it. Surrounding area to find out that particular stimulus is the receptor field. Understood? That's location. Next very important point is that we have something called as, see, apart from receptor field, we have one more important thing called as receptor density. What is this receptor density? Listen carefully. It talks mainly about number of receptors. Number of receptors. How many receptors are there in particular field? Very important. That will be found out by 2-point discrimination. See, this thing you will be doing in your practical examination when CNS is coming for you. Okay, 2-point discrimination. Okay, where the two closely placed points as two separate points. Two closely placed points will be as two separate points. It will be more sensitive in the lips as well as fingertips. That's it. At the level of lips and fingertips. 2-point discrimination. Fine. Okay. The next important thing. So we saw this much. Okay. The next important thing is intensity. Okay. So when intensity is there, our receptors is going to convey signals through what? Through action potential. This you know. Through action potential, our receptors are going to convey signals. But a very important phenomenon, there is all or none law. You know about it. You know about all or none law. So either there will be a production of a constant amplitude or there will be no production of amplitude. Right? Fine. So here the amplitude will remain. Amplitude will be remaining constant. But who is going to change? Yes, that is frequency. So here frequency will be changing. Very important. So when there is more intense stimuli, the frequency will be higher, right? When there is less intense stimuli, the frequency will be low. Understand? Fine. Next important thing is about duration. See, in duration, what is there? When the firing is started, there must be a stop in firing, right? And that time interval between the start as well as stop of the firing receptor, we call it as duration of the particular stimulus. Fine. So these are the properties of receptors. Fine. Now we have a general sense receptors. What are the general sense receptors? Mainly we have receptors. So mainly we have touch receptor, pain receptor, and then thermoreceptors. And now I will be discussing about cells. What are the various cells we have? See, look at this diagram. We have, this diagram is talking about Meissner corpuscles. See, this masonry corpuscles, they are abundant. Okay, they are abundant and they are numerous too. See, masonry corpuscles, they are abundant and numerous, and location we have in the lips as well as in fingertips. Okay, so function is fine and touch vibration. Okay, fine. So next very important thing is Merkel cell. This is about Merkel cells. See, Merkel cells, what really important function is that we have a reading system called as Braille. Okay, reading system, Braille reading system. In this system is helpful mainly for the blind people. For the blind people. So its main focus is on the edges and corners of the object and corners of particular stimuli. That is the Merkel cells. Understand? Now here we have the, this is not here we have Ruffini endings. See, Ruffini endings are going to detect. So we have endings here, right? It is going to detect the joint spaces. That's it. Joint spaces as well as any skin stretches. That's it. Do you all understand? This is all about the receptors. Okay. So let's see in another class. Thank you. Have a nice day and